Does it always feel like when you make parlays, you get one leg wrong? Well, you're not crazy, and you're also not unlucky. In this video, I'm going to expose the dirty trick that sportsbooks do that make them billions of dollars per year. Okay, so I made a nice Excel that visualizes the math of what's going on in a parlay. So let's say you have a 5-leg parlay, right? Your chance to hit all 5 legs at, let's say, 50%, so you're betting on minus 110 or minus 109 teams, your chance to hit all the legs is roughly 3%. But your chance to be one off is 15%. So that's your chance to get 5 out of the 6 correct. So you are 5 times more likely to be 5 for 6 than 6 for 6. And this isn't that intuitive for people. And it gets crazier the more legs you add. So let's go up to 6, right? So now you're 6 times more likely. Let's go up to 7. 7 times more likely, and so on. So if we go up to, let's say people do 10-leg parlays, your chance of being one off is about 1%. So that's your chance of getting 9 out of 10. But your chance of hitting all the legs is 0.1%. Okay? And that's really where they get you, because you're like, damn, I was so close to hitting all the legs of my parlay, but you really weren't. And that's just how it works out. So let's go back to, let's just do a straight bet. So we have one leg, so a 1-leg parlay. That's just a simple, let's say, money line bet. This is the bookies spread. So if you look at it, 4.5%, that's generally the average, right? Some are more, it's like 8%. And if you're doing very like specialized bets like player props and a lot of those things, the spread's usually going to be higher because there's less volume. But on like money line, it's going to probably be lower, maybe 4.5%. Some books, like if like Pinnacle, if they're very sharp, it's like 2%. So whatever. But 4.5% is generally the average. So if you look at this on a straight bet, you are on average going to lose 41 cents per bet. So your expected payoff is $4.59, and the bookie's expected payoff is $5. Basically, what this means is, on average, you are playing a losing game with the sportsbook. And most people intuitively know this. They're like, okay, the house always wins. But seeing it visualized kind of makes sense. So if you bet $10 at 50% probability, if you win, you only get about $9 back. But if you lose, the casino gets 10. So over time, over millions and millions of bet, this is essentially their profit margin, right? And okay, whatever, 4.5% might be reasonable for some people, but the crazy part is when you do parlays, this compounds. So let's take our example of a 5-leg parlay again, right? So everybody looks at this payoff, right? It's like, oh, I bet $10 and I could win 260. Yeah, okay, but the casinos don't really give a shit about that number. All they care about is this number, your expected loss. So every time you make one of these bets, on average, the casino expects you to lose 2. Compare this to the original, right? They're expecting you to lose 41 cents. So they are highly incentivized to get people to do parlays because, yeah, 3% of the time someone will win 260, but 97% of the time they're going to lose 10. So that comes out to the expected value of minus 1.9. And it gets worse the more legs you add. So if you have a 10-leg parlay, they're making even more money off of you. And that's essentially why these casinos push you to do as many parlays as possible. The sportsbooks, when you sign up, DraftKings is like, okay, do this 6-leg parlay. They want you to get in the habit of this. And they're also playing on the psychology of you're going to be close occasionally, right? Because if we go back to the 5-6-leg parlay, right, you have a 10% chance to get 5 out of the 6 correct, which you still lose your $10 bet, but it's 6 times more likely that you do that than actually hitting on your bet. So I made a table that kind of shows this. So this is on the 50% ones. This is essentially what the fair payout should be versus what it actually is on parlays. So you can see a 10-leg parlay, if you put, $10 on it, and your payoff is $643,000, yeah, that's a lot of money, but you're still getting scammed because they should be paying 1.024 million. That's fair odds essentially. So if you look, it just gets worse and worse the more legs you add how much you're actually paying the bookies. So what I do, and I started a business called Oddify. What we do is we focus on money line and spread. So these are the most liquid markets, so you're generally going to get the best prices. And there's always this perception that you cannot beat the house because they have all this data and they know exactly what they're doing. But the truth is, they couldn't care less about pricing that accurately because most people just do parlays. Most people do bet builders. They do same day like game bets, and they combine a bunch of them. So they get you in, and their odds are generally very sharp, but you can beat them, and you can get an edge on certain markets. And the markets I've found is money line and spread. So what we do is we predict. So we give our models probability. So it's 52.4% chance for the Phillies, for example, versus the books. They're giving it about 45%. So if we go back to our Excel, the reason why this is potentially interesting is because if we have a 7% potential edge, the model does, you're overcoming your disadvantage versus the casino. So if we look at this, so you need to have a 52% kind of advantage over even odds. So you need like a 2.15% over even odds to essentially break even. So that's kind of what the models try to do, is they try to predict the games more accurately than the odds do to give people an edge. And I've been tracking the baseball model since it's been up, so it's more of a newer one. But so far in the 36 bets placed, it's at a 9.5% positive ROI, which I'm happy with. So the total and spread, I just made those today. The money line, that's over the past week, it's at a 20% ROI. But the interesting thing is most of the games it passes on, right? Because it's not overcoming the spread. Because you need a large enough advantage here. Like, look at this. It sees a 17% edge on the away team, right? That is a big enough edge where you can overcome this spread. Now, but if I was combining these bets, if I was like, okay, yes, but I'm going to do this one, and I'm going to do this one, and I'm going to do this one, your edge kind of deteriorates. So in my opinion, I think it's really stupid to try to make real money doing parlays. It just doesn't work. And then also, if I had some advice, is to use prediction markets, so you can actually trade it more like a equity. You can look at the prices. You can say, okay, I want it for this price. This seems like a good price to me, and you can put in limit orders and things like that. That seems to work better for me. And then additionally, with these prediction markets, you have lower spreads. So you still have a spread, but it's more like 3% than a traditional book. So your expected payoff on, let's say the odds are perfectly calibrated, your expected loss is roughly 28 cents on a $10 stake. So that is kind of the number that you have to overcome. And most people don't really get that, because they'll bet something on, let's say it's 8%, the spread. And just over time, if you're doing that, you're going to lose so much money. And there's so many of these books that just, they offer more things. They offer more things you can bet on. I think Prize Picks is a great example of that. They just they're basically exploiting people because their spreads are like 8-9%, and they just get people to place parlays. So if you already have a starting spread at 8%, and then you maybe make someone do an 8-leg parlay, like their essential VIG now is 85%, the essential spread that they're taking, which is absurd. And now they may compound it less, but this is generally the case, that the more legs in your parlay, the more money you can expect to lose.